from Eldos. Okay. Dr. Sade Modley. Please join us on stage. Okay, great. So I was like researching what a PhD is. And it was interesting. I need to read this. I seriously need to read this. Where did I write it now? PhD. It's a doctor of philosophy. And our next speaker also is a doctor. So I want to ask, does your name change at home? Does your child call you Dr. Mom? I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Sade Modley.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to support this event. Thank you to the organizers. I think it's an amazing event, and I'm so honored to be here today. So I just first want to introduce myself. As you said, my name is Leanne. I'm 30 years old. I'm a registered scientist. I graduated my BSc in Natural Science and my honors also BSc in Zoology. And I went on to do my master's degree in Environmental Management. And I'm awaiting my graduation now for my PhD also in Environmental Management. My daytime job is a lecturer also in Environmental Management. And my second job is a program manager for MVBC, which is a young water professional program where we basically train entrepreneurs in the environmental space. So it's funded by DST, and it's also just one of our programs where you try and uplift them and look at their ideas and try and push them to great heights. So I just want to first explain what I do and what environmental management is. It's a broad field, as it says, you manage the environment, but all of us do different aspects of the environment. So I focus on water quality, but I'm sure being in high school or being in school, it's one of those subjects or topics that you haven't heard much about. So environmental management looks at all the different aspects and the laws and the monitoring and the management of the environment. So I started out, obviously when you do an environmental management degree, mostly what you do is environmental consulting. So I started out in environmental consulting, and you go to mines, wherever there's a type of construction coming out, where people are building farms, where there's a big farm coming up, where there's a chicken farm coming up, big mines, platinum mines, coal mines, gold mines. So you go to the mine and you see that they are not polluting the environment in a way that cannot be, where the environment cannot be brought back to a state that we can use it. So you use the laws, you do different types of monitoring, which is what I do, the water quality monitoring, and we sort of try and audit the mine every month or 4 times a year or twice a year, just to make sure that they are doing what they said they would do. The other path, well, I worked in environmental consulting for 2 years. I then got a job as a lecturer at UJ, and it was in environmental management, but they allowed me to do water quality. So when you become a lecturer, I'm sure you know you can choose different paths. So I chose environmental management, where I now focus on students that want to look at water management. So we look at management and we look at monitoring as well. If you work in environmental consulting, you need a degree. If you work at a university like UJ, you are expected to have a PhD. So you have to be a specialist in your field in order to train other people. It wouldn't make sense if you were a lecturer and you don't even have a degree. So working in academia is much more pressure than working in the industry. I could be a bit biased, but it's one of those things where you are responsible for someone else. So if my students are failing, it's my responsibility to get them to pass. So I feel it's a big job because you are actually responsible for someone else. So how did I get into environmental management? I attended Sir John Adamson High School in the south, and I obviously, growing up, my parents always told me that I will become a doctor. So that's what I had to become, a doctor. And at the end of the day, I also felt like that, you know, let me become a doctor. So I'd done the obvious thing. I took the science subjects, physical science at the time, maths, biology, and accounting. And I was on this path to become a doctor, because that's all I knew. I had to be a doctor. In matric, I became a little bit lazy and I dropped maths from higher grade to standard grade, and I think that's where I started realizing that I'm probably not going to become a doctor, because you need higher grade maths. I passed my matric and I got accepted at WITS. I applied for medical science, and WITS came back and said, conditionally, as long as you do a bridging course for a year, which I thought was awesome. So my sister and I thought this was crisis mode, because I mean, going from you have to be a doctor to not going to university was going to be a big deal. So we went to UJ and I asked them, what options do I have? They said, well, if you wanted to do medical science and you didn't get it, you might as well take human physiology and biochemistry, which was fodder. I've never heard the terms before, but I thought I have to do a degree. I mean, there's no other way now. So I got accepted at UJ for human physiology and biochemistry, and university is so different. So I just felt, up until this point, my father had been paying my fees, which I'm extremely grateful for. My whole degree was done without a bursary, so my father worked very hard to pay my fees for me. And I just felt, if I had to fail now, it's a slap in the face to my father that's worked so hard to get me to this point. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to work. And yes, it looks fun sometimes. If everyone's going out, if everyone's partying and everyone's clubbing, it does look like, you know, now I must sit at home and study. But at the end of the day, the only thing that was driving me at that point was the fact that my father was paying my fees and I had to pass. So at the end of my zoology honors degree, I was lost, because I didn't know where to from here, and I definitely did not want to have zoology everywhere I went. So I spoke to a lot of people and they said to me, environmental management is the career. You make so much money because all you do is manage. That's all you do. And I thought, well, might as well make money. I mean, I've been doing this for so long. And again, I was so wrong. Environmental management is not just about managing, and it's not just about making money. It is a hectic field. So I decided to do my master's in environmental management, and for the first time, being colored worked for me, because my supervisor came and he said, I'm just going to be blunt. I'm just going to be very honest with you. We have a bursary, but they want a black female. And you're the only black female in the zoology class, so are you interested? Of course I was, because I didn't know what to do, so I went with the zoology project, still being in environmental management, and it was an awesome project. We went to different provinces, we looked at the different types of biodiversity, but it wasn't easy because I started working that same year. So I started working full-time and being ambitious, or as ambitious as I was, which wasn't always a good thing. I decided to register my degree full-time as well. So it was difficult because I had to sometimes start at 6 o'clock in the morning so I could leave early and quickly go to UJ to attend classes. But all this time, I had the most amazing support system. My parents always motivated me, even though the path I had taken was slightly off what they thought I would do. My siblings always motivated me, and at the time I had an amazing boyfriend, which is now my husband, who always motivated me as well. So in my honors year, every second day I had to kill 10 fish, means 5, no one makes it the first time. And I think again, just because of my skin color, and I knew everyone thought it's a colored girl, she's obviously not going to make it. That negativity pushed me into a positive direction, because I then had to do something, you know, I had to make sure I passed this. And I did the first time around, I passed it, and everyone was amazed because hardly anyone makes it the first time around. So I finished my master's degree 18 months. It's usually 2 years or 3 years if it's part-time. So I finished it within 18 months while working full-time. And I thought, now, you know, consulting's not working for me anymore. We only get to go into the water twice a year or 4 times a year. And I want to do water every day. I want to be in the water. I want to be looking at fish. I want to be looking at macroinvertebrates every single day. So I started looking for another job. And all of the jobs came back, obviously with rejection. None of the jobs was like, fine, come for an interview, except one. So they called me for an interview, and it was an amazing job. It was where I wanted to be. All they did was work in the water. Their name was even water quality scientist. So I thought this was my job. They emailed me to say that you didn't make it. We don't think you have what it takes to become a water quality scientist. It's a difficult job, and you just don't sort of look like the type. Which I thought was weird, because especially through my masters, we went into the water. Sometimes the water's frozen. You have to go in there and get your insects. You have to go in there and get your fish. We were used to waking up 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the field. I thought, well, you know, that was my job, but I don't think it was God's plan for me. So in April, one of my ex-lecturers sent the email and he said, is anyone willing to become an assistant lecturer? And I went home that night and I spoke to my parents and I said, I just need you to support me financially for 3 more years. I'm going to take this job and I don't think they're going to pay me. But they want me to get a PhD degree, which was what I had to do to become a doctor. So my parents agreed. As I said, my support system has always been amazing. My parents agreed and my father said he'll support me for the next 3 years. The next day I went to work. I replied, I said, yes, I'm interested. They phoned me. They said, you have the job. No interview, nothing. So I started at UJ in April. Without the interview, they just had my CV. And it was a 3-year contract, and they said you have to start your PhD. So I started my PhD, and I decided, because it's in environmental management, let me try working with people. So I'll do interviews, I'll go into the game farms, and for 8 months, it was a total flop. It was such a waste of time, and I just decided, you know what, working with people is not for me. I walked down to Zoology and asked them if they have a project, and they said, yes, we need someone to kill 200 fish. So we can find out what's wrong with the fish, and I said, I'm in, and that's what I did now. But I thought I'd be in surgery, not a doctor of philosophy, as you said. But you need to have a goal in mind, and you need to stick with that goal. Eventually you'll make it, even though you go different routes. But as a young person, find something that you're passionate about and stick to that goal. So
a mother and a wife, and a career woman, and a student at the same time, and a daughter, and a sister. But most weekends I hang out with my siblings, and we not always go out, but we like dancing, and we like chilling, and it's just a way to relax and, you know, get your mind off things. So we really enjoy chilling.
So I haven't been informed, and I think that's the main problem, because people, I never heard about environmental management until I got to masters. So it tells you something about the school I came from, because all I knew is that I either had to become a doctor, accountant, a lawyer, and I think a lot of the problems start when you don't know. You don't know what the opportunities are.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leanne, Sade Modley. A hand of applause, Lulu. Okay, there's questions. Okay, I like it. And you just wanted to step in. I also wanted to say something. Pastor has something to ask us. This is our Pastor Nathan Gilbert, everybody.
It was something that dawned on me while you were busy motivating the crowd was through your difficult times, you went through so much. Who would you say was your icon, inspiration? Anybody that was, you look up and actually, you know, like support, not just your parents, but in your times of loneliness, because you actually separated yourself from the crowd. Though people were partying, I mean, at a young age, you were motivated in a self-sustained way. But I just want to know, who was your icon, person that you always looked up?
My icon was SpongeBob. SpongeBob.
So it's difficult to say because most of the time I didn't even know what I wanted to do. So I couldn't even say, you know, I'm looking up to this person because they're a strong person in my field. I didn't really have someone to look up to because there was very few people that, you know, were in this field. But my driving factor, the thing that always motivated me, and I know you said not your parents, but my father always pushed me, and most of the things that I did was to make him proud. So eventually when I finished my doctorate, after he telling me get a doctorate, when I finished my doctorate, he said, now we're waiting for you to become a professor. So it was just, he always pushed me, and I always tried my best to make my father proud. So yeah, especially get into Eldos and try and make a difference. So it's really been difficult, but we are trying.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Dr. Leanne. Okay.
I've got a question.
Okay, Daryl has a question. Okay.
I don't think I need a mic. I think okay.
Are you okay? Alright, Daryl says it's okay. With the artist team.
Leanne, you mentioned something about, you know, obviously on your journey there was lots of, I want you to speak about the racial tension. You mentioned that your culture or racial group became a challenge. People perceive you to be a certain stereotype. Can you tell us more about that? And was that turning point in your life where people that, when you enroll, people said, no, you don't belong here because you're a colored person. You're the only colored person in your faculty. And then the second question is, you mentioned your parents were quite significant in your growth this far. Tell us about what type of mother you are and what type of mother you're going to be, thanks to the foundation that they laid supporting you.
So, like I said, being a colored in this type of field, it's difficult because people already have this perception of how colored people are supposed to be. In the science faculty, I think we the stats from 2017, there was 11 colored people and the faculty has 2,000 students enrolled. So I think also colored people or colored children look at science and think, no man, I don't know chemistry, I don't know physics, neither do I, but I'm in science. There is a variety of fields, and especially in zoology, it's mostly white. It's changed a bit now, and for me, being in that type of space actually motivated me so much because I always had to prove something. I always had to prove that I'm not going to be the only one that fails because then they'll say, hey, this colored girl, what did you expect? I'm not going to be the only one that gets, low marks because they always look at you and expect that from you. So it was, for me, I would say it was more of a motivation than anything else because I always had to prove myself. And it's not right to always have to prove yourself, but at the end of the day, it was one of those things that actually pushed me to this height. Because if I had dropped out when I felt pregnant, they would have been like, well, why did you expect she's colored? So it always pushed me to show them that whether you think this is how colors are, whether you think this is how they are, we're all the same. It's just your mindset. It doesn't matter what my skin color is, how I think is what makes me different. So it's not about being colored, it's not about being female, it's just my mindset.
Second question.
Oh, I'm not sure. I think I'm a good mother. I try my best to spend as much time with my child. And I hope to be the type of parent that my parents were. Obviously, it's my husband and I, we do the best that we can. We obviously want what's best for our child like any other parent. But I also want to motivate my child to, go against all odds. Don't do this because everyone is doing it or everyone is expecting it from you. Be the exception to the rule. Do what's the